We're recording.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about fan fiction. So what do y'all think of when y'all hear fan fiction? What does it mean to you? So, the Oxford English Dictionary describes fan fiction as fan fiction written by a fan and featuring characters from a particular TV series, movie, etc. Most people think that this is a relatively recent genre, made popular by the internet. However, I feel like if we take the time to look at more classical forms of literature, we'll see that a lot of art and books in our culture today have their roots in fan fiction. So in January of 2022, The Cord, a news website by Wilfrid Laurier University, wrote an article on the continuing rise in popularity of fan fiction. Belling, the author, stated that the most popular fan fiction posting site at the time, which was an Archive of Our Own, or AO3, boasted over 8 million published frameworks of fan fiction for over 48,000 fandoms. So there's no denying that, at least in modern times, fan fiction is synonymous with the internet. However, let's again take a closer look and go further back, before the internet claimed fan fiction for its own. Julia Laurent wrote a thesis paper on fan fiction and its legitimacy in July of 2020. She states that the date of origin for fan fiction is relatively hard and almost impossible to pinpoint. There's no telling when it actually began. However, the oldest example she used was Sherlock Holmes, and that started when fans were outraged that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle killed off the beloved character and decided writing their own stories. So, looking further back still, most people would be shocked to learn that a lot of what we consider classical literature is actually fan fiction. We have Dante's Inferno, which is a Bible fan fiction, and it's actually self-insertion Bible fan fiction, which is one of the most popular subgenres of fan fiction today. Then you have Ulysses by James Joyce, which is just a fan fiction of the Odyssey. And you have Romeo and Juliet, which is actually a fan fiction of a famous poem at that time called The Tragical History of Romeus and Juliet. Then we have The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, who read a book and fell in love with the characters so much he wanted to continue their story in his own words. And that's just to name a few. In modern times, there are several New York Times bestsellers that began as fan fiction, and the authors have even come out and said they were actually posted on internet sites as fan fiction. So you have The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, and that started off as a Star Wars fan fiction. You have City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. That was a Harry Potter fan fiction. And arguably the most famous on our list is 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James, and that was a Twilight fan fiction. Then you have the After series by Anna Todd, and that started out as a One Direction fan fiction. And this is among many others. So it's hard to deny that fans taking source material and using their creativity to slightly alter or fill in the gaps of popular stories today have had an impact and even shaped some of the culture and art of present times. So, while fan fiction has made an impact, it remains divisive among authors and readers alike. So, James R.R. Martin, the author of A Song of Ice and Fire, hates fan fiction and argues that it's illegal based on copyright infringement. Diana Gabaldon, who is the author of Outlander, says that it's immoral and illegal. Anne Rice, who is the author of the Vampire Chronicles, says that, or said in the past, that she'll take legal action against anybody who uses any of the characters from her novels. Orson Scott Card, the author of Ender's Game, was quoted as saying the time for writing fan fiction is never. There are, however, some authors who support fan fiction and also even write fan fiction of their own. So C.S. Lewis, the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, encouraged fans, especially his young readers, to write more Narnian stories and also fill in the gaps that he may have left behind. J.K. Rowling allows fan fiction of her work, but only under certain conditions. Leah Bardugo, she is the author of Shadow and Bone. She has actually said that she views it as the highest honor that her fans can give her by falling in love with these characters just as much as she does. And Neil Gaiman writes fan fiction himself and has even gotten an award for it, and says that there's no better way to flex your creativity than writing about characters and stories that you already know and love. So, fan fiction is published usually with little recognition and no compensation for the fans that write it. At least in most cases, they do it just because they love it and they're not ready to let these characters go. People have always embellished stories that have caught their eye or ear, from fairy tales passed down through word of mouth to legends that were passed around the campfire from generation to generation. Fan fiction is legitimate if only because of the creativity it inspires. Think of it. If you write a story of your favorite Marvel characters and post it online and it becomes popular and viral, it'll give you the encouragement and inspiration to keep going and create your own stories that you want. Fan fiction isn't going away, and it's time for us to give it the respect and validation it deserves. Next time you find a great book or a great movie, remember, it might just be another great work of fan fiction in disguise.
Yay!